Welcome, everybody, to the High in Life podcast, where we hope to inspire you to live out the best version of yourself that's possible. Today on the podcast, we're very excited to have Udo Erasmus, whose expertise lies in the world of health and nutrition. He is best known for introducing the world to the benefits of fats, oils, and whole food supplements. Other than that, his list of accomplishments is very long. He's written 5 books that went on to sell over 250,000 copies. In addition to that, he's given over 5,000 talks and sold over 2.5 million bottles of his oils around the world. Now, with his deep focus and knowledge in health, we're so very excited to know more about his incredible stories and how he got to where he is today. And we're curious to know what exactly makes him high on life. So, Udo, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. It's
Hi already.
Let's make some noise, right?
Yeah,
Let's make
that's
some
big
noise. That's awesome.
First question I was going to ask was, how did you, get in contact with us? Because we've never really connected before. But Justice said that he got a message from, I think, your manager.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're building a platform for me under udoerasmus.com, and I've actually grown into a bigger picture. I'm really interested in nature, human nature, and health, and everything affects health. So literally, if you want to have a really good life, you have to give everything its due.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's what we're building. And the products that I've developed, the enzymes and probiotics and fiber and oils, and that I want to pull them into, they're just like a part of one of the 8 parts that are part of health. The book is called The Book on Total Sexy Health, The 8 Key Parts Designed by Nature. And that's an overview of what I'm trying to build into now. It's really fun.
It's exciting.
I've been wanting to do that since I was 6 years old.
Really?
I didn't know the title was going to be like that at 6, right? But I came out of the Second World War.
Right.
And I was 2. We were refugees fleeing from the communists who were chasing us in tanks and trucks. And the Allies were shooting at us from planes on the roads that we were fleeing on. They knew we were refugees. And it was really chaotic. It was really, I got left behind and it was a mess. I don't remember much other than the anxiety. And when I was 6 and watched adults argue about really, really trivial things, just like they do now, right? I said, God, there must be a way that people can live in harmony, and I'm going to find out how. And that's been my driver all my life. I've had other drivers, smaller drivers, but that's been the big driver in my life.
Oh.
Incredible. Yeah. You have such a long story. I was reading your autobiography just from the fleeing the war into how you came to study health and probiotic science and everything, and then how eventually you got poisoned. Can you tell us more about the big transition in your life that got you into really diving into fats and respecting your body and health?
Yeah, well, so one of my little drivers was my marriage broke up, and I was really upset, so I wanted to kill something. So I took a job as a pesticide sprayer.
That would do it, yeah.
And after 3 years of spraying them very carelessly, walking through what I had sprayed, until the skin peeled off my feet, and I started wearing rubber boots, bathing suit because I wanted to get a tan. I'm a white guy, right? So white guys want to get darker if they're discontent with what they got, right? And so after 3 years, the predictable happened. I got poisoned by the pesticides I was spraying.
And what year was this?
That was 1980. And then it occurred to me that day, I said another word there. My health is my responsibility. And if I don't pay attention to it, nobody does. And I went to the doctor and said, what do you got for pesticide poisoning? She said, nothing. And at that point, because I had the background in science and biosciences and psychology and biochemistry and genetics, so I had pretty good background in science, all to try and make sense of the world from my childhood experience, right? How does it all work? And I started looking in the journals for health and nutrition, disease and nutrition, because your body's made out of food, water, air, and light. If something goes wrong, probably you need to adjust the quality of the food, water, air, and light that you're getting, because your body will rebuild itself 98% every year. Like all the atoms in your body, 98% of them are removed and replaced. You don't even notice. But that's why healing is possible. Because if there wasn't always this reconstruction going on, then you could never heal. So the idea is that if you don't like the shape your body is in, you raise the standard, and in 1 year, you have built a 98% new body to a higher standard.
Wow, I never knew that it was 98%.
98%.
I heard it's 7 years.
7 years for 100.
For 100.
Yeah.
Oh, so that 2% really takes some time.
Well,
Okay.
it's some of it goes really even faster than that. Like every year, you drink 12 times your body weight in water. So it's going through, like there's a lot going through you all the time. And it's washing out the wastes, and it's part of all the reactions that take place in your body. But this is a major construction site
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
All the
And
healing.
because it's always a construction site, you bring better construction material, you build a better house.
That's
right.
true. I think when I heard about the part that you went to the doctor and you said, how can you fix me? I've been poisoned. And they said, there's nothing that we can do. And that shocked me because I think as humans, we all just, we bang ourselves up, we get sick, and we immediately go to our doctors and physicians to get fixed in the first place. But we never look to prevent ourselves getting hurt or sick in the first place. Like,
Right.
I could have avoided the poisons. I could take better care of my health. I just end up getting sick every 5-6 months because I don't treat my body that well. I know why afterwards, but I always look for the doctor. So it's interesting that we should probably take more notice in what we put into our bodies instead of always just resulting to go to our doctors to get fixed, right?
Of course. I took a year of medicine in my journey, and I left because I found out I wanted to know what health is, and it's called healthcare. So it's not surprising. I thought I would learn about health there.
Right.
They only teach about disease. They don't even have a definition other than you're healthy when you're not sick. But actually, that's backwards. You're sick when you're not healthy. Health is the principle.
Yeah.
And then we were told that a doctor should sound as though he knows what's going on even when he doesn't. And we call that lying on the farm that I grew up on.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not spending my life that way. And then I realized, if I continue in biology is where you study health, because you're studying creatures, how they work when they're working. In medicine, they study tissue that's messed up. And then my question became, well, if I want to know what health is, if I want to know what light is, how long do I have to look into the darkness before I know what light is? Well, that's really crazy.
Yeah.
Right? How long do I need to study disease before I know what health is? That's just as crazy.
Yeah.
And health was created by life in nature. Everything your body is made of, it's light, oxygen, water, and nutrients.
It's just that simple.
It's all comes from nature. And then you process them out, or you add stuff to them that isn't part of nature. Your genetic program can't function if you don't give it the building blocks, or if you put in molecules that interfere, right? So most of our diseases come from either deficiency of good stuff that we need, or an excess of stuff we shouldn't be putting in there, and then poor digestion, which gets you both those problems.
Yeah. May I
This
ask,
is like for the physical stuff. We're not talking about mind and soul and social and all of that.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
I wanted to ask you what a pesticide poisoning really entails. What does that mean? What was going on in your body?
Well, for me, I mean, it could lots of things. Most poisons that are used for killing do one of two things. Either they inhibit respiration, so you can't breathe, so you don't get oxygen in, or you interfere with the process by which oxygen turns into energy by burning fuels, right? Or you poison the nervous system. Most pesticides do one of those two things. It's the most effective way to kill a creature is give it no air and destroy its computer.
Yep, that's fair.
Yeah. And you could have lots of different symptoms from having that happen to you. What happened to me, I had nausea, cramps, dizziness, really low energy. I was like 38. And if I walked around a city block, I had to sit down and rest like an 80-year-old. So I had no energy. And the other one that was really strange, that when I turned my head like this, it felt, I'm sure it wasn't true, but it felt like my head turned, but my brain didn't.
Wow.
So it was a really strange symptom, because how can your brain not turn with your head? But that's what it felt like.
Was it a slow build-up to get to that point, or
No,
did it just kind of all of a sudden one day was much worse?
Yeah, no, it happened one morning. We were at Ioko, spraying soil sterilants around the big pots, the big petrochemicals.
Sure.
What do they call them, right?
Yeah.
And they wouldn't let us clean up in their lunchroom. And when I sat down to eat lunch, I actually ate something, and I basically licked it off my fingers. I know that's when it happened, and within 3 hours, I was like totally knocked back. I knew it was pesticide poisoning because there was that situation. They wouldn't let us clean up.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane.
Well, this is back. They were not high on life.
No, they were high on pesticides.
Because they'd be supporting life if they were.
Yeah, that was 1980, right?
That was 1980.
Yeah, so this is in the 80s. Is this is this stuff that's still being done today?
Oh, sure.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, some things have changed. There's some pesticides now that are not as long lasting.
Right.
Because there was a time when the pesticides had like a 30-year half-life.
Wow.
And
That's
those have
pretty
been
long.
mostly removed. Now they have shorter half-lives.
Half-lives, yeah.
But we're still spraying. The whole valley is full of it. The whole Okanagan Valley, where I spent part of my childhood, was all the orchards. They sprayed them all the time. All the time, and then all that stuff goes down, and whenever it rains, which isn't that
Gets
much
into the water.
It ends up in the river. We used to go swimming in the river.
Oh God, yeah.
So you're bathing in like diluted pesticides,
And occasionally you get a warning, but you can't as a society, like your government will sometimes tell you don't go in this water because it's bad, or the water's polluted, so you better boil it. But what we're doing to the environment under the laws that the government's created. Again, they're not high on life. That's not high on life.
Actually,
to pollute.
We got to show them the way.
We've got False Creek right beside us here. And
I live on the other end of it.
E. coli problem with it. I've
we-
actually gone into that water one time filming a video with High on Life.
Yeah, we in the 60s, we used to swim on Kitts Beach and down here.
Yeah.
False Creek.
I got
'cause it was
sick.
all okay.
I got
you
sick
did?
that day from swimming in False Creek.
Yeah, and how do you know it wasn't just because you thought you wouldn't, so you did?
Could have been a lot of things,
Yeah.
but really the coincidence alone was enough to set me straight.
Yeah.
Okay, that was
I
what it
remember that
was.
last year.
Yeah. Well, it's not surprising.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask when you after the poisoning happened and you approached the doctor and they said we have nothing for you, and you kind of just realized this is my control. Health is my control. Health is my duty to myself.
Yeah, it's my responsibility.
My responsibility. Yes, correct. What were the actions you took after that to bring your health back?
I started taking supplements because that was one thing I knew I could do. I drank a lot of water. I was actually living not bad even before that. I didn't do any more pesticide spraying. Surprise.
Didn't do that.
And then I was really looking for what are all the pieces, and I went into the journals for that. And I ended up looking at minerals and vitamins and amino acids and fatty acids. Those are the essential nutrients that life needs to build a body. So I looked at all of that. I got stuck on oils because I realized, number one, they're the most sensitive of all of our foods. They have double bonds in them, so it makes them sensitive. They're damaged by light, by oxygen, by heat. Mm-hmm. They should get the most care of any of the nutrients we have, and we give them the least care because we throw them in the frying pan until they turn into smoke. And when something turns into smoke, you've changed its chemistry.
That's right.
And we do it without thinking about it because we were bamboozled by an industry that also was not high on life to use oils for cooking, because 150 years ago, most cooking meant boiling water for cooking. Right. And then they said, oh, man, they're cooking in water, and can you imagine how much oil we could sell if we could get them to use oil for cooking?
It's a conspiracy.
Well, it's not a conspiracy we're not that organized. Human beings are not that organized that you can really pull off good conspiracies, right? What it is, they're following the bottom line. That money is more important than life to them. And that's always when it comes right down to it, you're either working for life or you're working for money. And you don't necessarily know which one you're working for until push comes to shove. When push comes to shove, if you're working for life, you'll sacrifice money for life to preserve life. And when push comes to shove and you're working for money, you'll sacrifice life for money because you believe in money more than you do in people, in life.
I love that. That's great.
No, it's deep.
It's
deep.
It makes
Right?
sense.
And money is very good as a means of exchange, but for many, many people, it's become the goal, right?
Yeah.
And when it becomes the goal, then you find if you're discontent, you'll find half of the time you use your money constructively, and the other half of the time you use it destructively, because that's how your mind works, because money is a mind issue. From the heart, 100% for you, never steers you wrong, right? The mind will steer you wrong half the time. And so you look at the world, all the big wars are started by rich people. The poor people are trying to find food, right?
Yeah, it's too true.
And then you look at even terrorism, all that stuff. The head terrorists are all rich guys. They hire poor people to do the work for them because they're trying to eat. But the crazies, because they're discontent, because they're not in touch with the place where contentment lives in every human being, right? Because they're discontent, then they find somebody to blame for their discontent. You know, if Americans were, not blah, 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 then I would be more content. So let's do terror on whoever you've defined as the enemy, right? It could be, that's how murder happens too, right? If you're discontent and you get into some kind of a thing with somebody and you get to the point where you say, I'll be happier if this person was dead. Right. Well, let me help that along a little.
Yeah. And you were saying like you were discontent with how things were going with your marriage, and you wanted to destroy something. So
of course. This is like I'm not just talking about out there. I'm not the holy one. I'm just paying attention to how life works. You get to discover there's a good side in you, and there's a not so good side in you.
Of course.
Right? I remember when
but here is only good. Yeah. So if we could pull into the core of our own being, we could actually we would feel so taken care of, because life takes perfect care of us every moment of every day, 24/7, through all our dramas, all our traumas, all the stuff that we pay attention to, right? And then the whole time, that one molecule of folic acid that needs to get from your stomach to your ankle, your life is taking care of making sure that happens. Yeah. Right? And not that, but like billions of other reactions. Mm-hmm. So it's taking perfect care of you through everything. And how much attention do we give it? Because when you give that deliberate attention, you get really high on life.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, I consider myself a healthy person, but like now that I really look at like after the stuff that you've created and some of the talks that I've watched, that I'm not that healthy. Mm. I maybe go to the gym and I have a pretty balanced diet, but still I'm still burning all those oils that I'm putting into my body. I'm still probably putting in things from fast food and bad fats and everything that I shouldn't be doing. It just happens because it's so easy and it's quick to do, but I don't have the knowledge to really know everything.
So let me rub it in a little more.
Let's do it. Yeah.
So if you look at it, every creature on this planet eats everything that it eats, fresh, whole, raw, and organic. We are the only creature, and the animals that depend on us are the only creatures on this planet that think they know better how food works for health. Mm-hmm. And so then we take things out, and then we process it in other ways, and then we fry it, and we do all this other stuff to it. And the assumption is, and we do it usually in the name of convenience. Yeah. Sometimes in the name of taste.
Yeah.
Right?
Convenience, sometimes in the name of money.
Yeah, and for them, always in the, they call them value-added products. They're actually value subtractors.
Supersize.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was younger, I just, you start understanding all this corruption in this world and how money takes precedence over many things. But health was something I never really thought that people would lie to you about. But then I realized that, like, I was gullible back then.
It's really cool. That's because when cooking, when the industry started promoting cooking in oils, the way we thought, because I'm old enough to have been there, right?
Right.
That's like 40s, 50s. I was there in the 50s. I was born in 42, right? So, so and people would say this to each other. Well, the industry would never do anything that would be bad for us, or they'd never suggest that we do something that's bad for us. Now, when you hear that, you laugh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because you've heard so many corruption things. The newest one is with the airplanes, the 737
Yeah.
X's, right?
Yeah.
And so they, if you listen to the news, I do listen to the news quite a bit. They didn't do the training properly. They didn't do the testing properly. They were cutting corners. They were trying to maximize profits, and they did it at the expense of about 500 people. And they would have done it longer because there was some suggestion that they were trying to not down those planes to sort out the problem, right?
Yeah.
Until finally
Something happened.
President jumped on it and said, no, you know what?
Yeah.
We're downing them. Everybody else was already, Canada had already downed them. But there's always the back room where we make deals, they're loyalty deals, and sometimes those things need to be exposed. So my suggestion is always, don't be loyal to your buddies, be loyal to the truth. Because on truth you can build, on lies you tear things down. When you have loyalty to things that people are doing where they have each other's backs, you know what I'm talking about, in politics, happens a lot, right? Then you're actually tearing down the social system because you're lying. And lying is a form of dictatorship, and it takes away people's choice. And when people don't know, when people don't have information that they can make good choices on, then you're depriving them of choice. So education is really important, but the education has to be honest.
Yeah.
And advertising, there's a lot of dishonesty in advertising, right?
Oh, really?
Really?
Oh, yeah. Well, I noticed only lately.
I think one of the biggest forms of advertising lies that I've seen is one of those behind-the-scenes photo shoots of like how they do like a really perfect-looking beer foam. And it's not actually beer foam. They actually use dish detergent
soap,
to get the best kind of foam.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a bunch of other tricks that I've seen.
A pumpkin pie, they don't use whipped cream. They actually use shaving cream because
that's right.
it stays and holds its shape better for the camera.
And for maple syrup, they use motor oil on pancakes. It's
Really?
like, yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
So
just weird.
I didn't know those ones.
Yeah.
we'll have to send you the link.
Thanks for
just so you
enlightening
know.
me here.
Yeah, we'll send you the link.
And none of that. So again, like if you want to talk about being high on life, high on life is a straight track. First of all, you spend time with yourself. Quiet. Get really quiet as you can. Go as deep into the silence as you can. Do it for as long as you can. It'll be about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Because then you got to go pee, right? or something, right? So, and do that and discover how magnificent it feels to be alive. Because you're just dust and water, a little bit of gas, a little bit of light, right? And separate, they're kind of boring. When they get put together in the form of you, it's extraordinary what is possible to feel and to experience.
Now,
It's
do you have any tips or advice on how to shut off your mind when you're trying to go into that silence?
I would say don't shut off your mind, because your mind is doing a job.
Okay, because
Except when your mind is just ruminating on
that's what
stuff.
it feels like when I try.
So it's actually very easy, because the only place where that's going on is in the surface of your cortex, right? Well, why focus on your kneecap? Or focus on your ass sitting on the chair?
I just thought of it now.
Or focus on your breathing, or focus on the feeling of your feet on the floor. There are no thoughts in any of that. So it's not that hard to do, except you're more interested and more habitual to thinking than you are to exploring silence.
Gotcha.
Right?
I do. I use these examples when I'm trying to meditate. I believe meditation is good for you, and I would like to partake in it more often. And I practice. I try.
Yeah.
And I do. I focus on breathing. I focus on energy running through my body, and I just focus on inside me.
Right.
But realistically, what ends up happening is after 15, 20 seconds, I lose interest, or I lose focus, and my mind wanders again.
And one of the biggest things about sitting still is people say, oh, it's boring. Yeah, but have you ever noticed how peaceful it is in that boredom? And that's exactly where you're trying to go.
Yeah, that's right.
But we are addicted to
Stimulation.
Entertainment, something
right?
or
It's
other,
always
yeah.
crisis, always something, change,
There's always
change,
something on your
and
phone.
we're geared as biological organisms. We're geared to when something out there changes, we're attracted to it through our senses because we have to assess it. Is this friend or foe? Do I run or do I embrace it? Right? And that's a survival issues, and that's automatic. Going back is not automatic because there is no excitement in the core of your being. Just unbelievably beautiful peace, right? But you have to fall in love with that peace, and because most of what you get excited about and what changes is not life-threatening. Used to be possibly life-threatening, but when you watch TV, it's changing all the time. You're not threatened at all,
Yeah.
right? So to get out of the addiction to change, even in politics, we want change. No, you don't. From here, you want peace, but you're not getting any peace. I want a different kind of change, right? And we're addicted to that. And that's the addiction that keeps the world as crazy as it is. When you drop out of that craziness, because you don't actually have to deal with everything that's going on around you, and you don't have to have an opinion on everything. You can actually just enjoy what it feels like to be alive. And when you fall in love with that, it will not be hard to not be thinking while you're...
I think I've got a few
and
friends in mind that I want to tell that to. Yeah.
And
you
it
don't
does
have to have an opinion.
And it does take practice.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're really good. Like when we were kids, if you ever seen a newborn, eyes open, eyes go around, and they don't fix on anything because they haven't learned to externalize awareness, because inside the womb, they didn't have to.
That's right.
Inside the womb, they were in their Buddha space. I call it the Buddha tank. This is the Buddha tank, right? And you're in there, and everything's taken care of, and there's no place to go, and there's nothing to see, and you hear little gurgles, and you see maybe a little light like this, right? But there's nothing to do. So your awareness is at rest in its source, in life, inside. So you spent 9 months there if you're a term baby.
Yeah.
Then you came out, and then the process starts to bringing your awareness out. The return is a deliberate thing, because and there's one thing that calls you. That's whenever your heart aches. We think it's because the girlfriend dumped me, or the boyfriend dumped me, or whatever we think it is, or grandma died, or the dog ran away, or the cat got eaten
Sounds
by
like a country song.
by a squirrel, whatever. Yeah. And then when your heart aches, it's because you substituted that for being present in your own life. So you were getting your love and your good feelings from that. But all those things end. In here is something that is where the good feeling lives. Because when you feel it, you always feel it there, right? And that good feeling never goes away.
Oh, that's a really powerful thought.
God
Right?
damn.
Yeah.
How to stay high in life forever.
And then once you learn how to do that, which takes some practice, but with practice you get better. Because we've practiced going out so much, we've not practiced going in hardly any at all.
Yeah.
So you get good at going in, and then you find out you can go deeper and deeper and deeper. I've been doing this for 46 years, and I have never seen the bottom of it. And it feels better. And the older I get, the better I feel, because it's not based on body. It's based on something that is formless, never dies, never changes, right? So when I was sick, it was really helpful to have that.
Would you call this meditation?
Yeah, I would say it's some form of self-knowledge.
Okay.
Right? And there are different methods. Meditation is a method. Cold showers sometimes work too.
Ah, okay.
Right?
Yeah,
We've
I've
actually been
started to do
talking
those
about that a
recently.
little bit lately, yeah.
Or so there are different things that get you out of your head. The only thing between you and the wholeness that you can feel and the health that is perfect is your thinking.
But this is more than...
If you could find a way to put your mind asleep,
Yeah.
and you can do that too. Sometimes psychedelics are used to break through all of that ruminations. They do a very good job on depression and PTSD and anxiety and
alcoholism, stuff
alcohol.
like that as well.
Yeah, and they're like a gateway to a possibility.
So psychedelics are like a catalyst for what you're already capable of doing?
Yeah, I would say they blow the door open. In the 60s, I did some of that.
I've heard about this timeline, this time period.
And one day, they say if you remember it, you weren't there. I remember it, so I guess I wasn't there. So one day I looked at this and I said, is the experience in the psychedelic, or is the experience in me? I was like, well, no, the experience is in me. So then I thought, well, there must be a way to get to that experience without the psychedelic.
That's right.
And that would be nicer because, number one, it wouldn't cost any money. Number two, I could go there whenever I wanted. Number three,
Much safer.
Number three, I wouldn't have to be paranoid because they were illegal.
Yeah.
Right? So there were a lot of reasons. And then I started getting a little burned out by them because they're a little, if you do a lot of it, it's a little bit hard on your nervous system. So I decided I would take 2 years off and not do any because they're not addicting. So this is not like a difficult thing to do. Mm-hmm. Addiction comes from running a track in your brain. And it's so well tracked that every time you get whatever the trigger is, you go down that track and you don't see that you have other options. And psychedelics blow that open. So all of a sudden, instead of where you only saw one option, now all of a sudden you see 100 options. And that's what breaks people out of addictive habits, which are included in alcoholism and in drug addiction, but also PTSD and depression and anxiety.
I've read also a lot of patients, like cancer patients that are facing death. It's helped them get over
very much
facing their inevitability, which I think is beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that you say, it showed you what your mind was capable of, but now you want to step it back and say, okay,
right,
I've seen what it can do.
Yeah.
So how can I get there naturally?
Yeah. And then what I discovered after I had been doing the practice that I do for a couple of years, I tried the drugs and I found instead of bringing me up, they were bringing me down because the molecules are much grosser than awareness. So the molecules can blow the door open for you. But if you want to really go as deep as you can, you have to do that with awareness because awareness is formless and it doesn't have substance, but it's real, right? And when you become aware of being aware, then you realize that everything else, your thoughts and what you see, is a show. And you don't get so tied up in it. And then it's easy not to have opinions about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Going back to what you said about just being down and being self-aware and conscious, you were calling it meditation. It's not just about taking 30 minutes a day, though. It's about practicing a lifestyle that you can be in your mind and within yourself throughout the day, taking more time to yourself. It's a way of life and not having to, I battle myself with, I don't have the news on all the time anymore because I find half the stuff can be just a load of shit sometimes, depending on what kind of medium you're using. But I don't want to be ignorant of the world. But again, I don't need to know everything.
Right.
So it's finding that balance for me. But also, why do I need to focus on X amount of problems in the world when I haven't been dealing with my own stuff? Right.
Well, because to tell the truth, when we bitch about problems, we're not solving them. We're just making them bigger.
Yeah.
Right. And what if you became the solution by not being the problem? Mm-hmm. And how do you become the solution? You discover that it's possible to get high on life.
Yeah, taking control.
But high on life, high on life is a party term sometimes. But when I'm talking about high on life, and that's why I love that high on life, is really if you're in touch with life. First of all, it weighs nothing. It runs everything. It's so light. Life, right? It's energy. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When it separates, your body is finished. That energy is so light that it can take water, which would usually be on the ground, and raise that water all the way up to here. Right?
Right.
Right? It's what raises you off the floor.
Yeah.
Right? And then you say, well, but that's because you have bones and muscles and all of that. No, that's a structure that same life built to get it done. But it's life that's doing it.
That's
So
true.
whether it's that structure, and the water is not in your bones and your muscles. I mean, there's water there too, but the fact that you can raise that water and dust off the ground, right?
Yeah.
That high. It's like that's more than light.
It's like almost, I can't even determine it. I can't even put it like it's something that no one even knows enough about. I don't think it's just about what
Right, but
we are as entities. And
But my
everything.
point is, it's doing that.
It is.
Yeah.
How can you argue
You
that?
can't argue. Yes, right, exactly.
Yeah, because the moment that life and body separate, we call that death, right?
Yeah.
Body goes flat, water goes in the ground, dust goes in the ground,
Yeah.
right? And here's this thing and we don't give it any credibility. I realized that when I was 27. I was bitching about the war. War ended when I was
Which
3.
war was this one?
Second World War. I was in Europe.
Right.
We were in Poland. We were fleeing from Poland to Germany. And my parents came from Latvia. So I bitched about, well, what do you expect? I was born in a war. So anything was wrong with me. Well, what do you expect? I was born in a war.
Yeah.
That was my excuse. And one day I was sitting on the porch in 1968 probably, so 1969 probably. Sitting on the porch in the sunlight on 7th Avenue, and it occurred to me, wow, through all that, something took care of me. I've never given that any attention. I've always bitched about my dramas and my traumas. Maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea if I got to know that thing that took perfect care of me through all of that stuff. That was a big turn. Just like it was just an insight. Yeah. And now I say, okay, I was really fortunate to be born in a war, because I learned very early what happens when we don't cultivate peace, when we have the luxury to do it. And people in North America are pretty cavalier about war. Why 9/11 was such a big blow up, because it's like nobody ever thought this would ever happen in the United States, right? But the truth is, we're all heading in that direction because we're not building the peace. We build the arms, and then we fold our hands and do nothing, and say, God, bring us peace. Peace. Like, we're not going to do it. This means we're not going to do anything. I would do it the other way around. I say, you know what? Let's work our asses off or let's get really into what peace is, and then build out a world from that peace. And then go like this: God, if you want a war, you fucking bring it. Right? Now that makes sense.
Well said. Yeah.
Right? But we don't think about what we're doing. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why it's surprising that somebody says it.
Yeah. I mean, we were actually talking about on our way over here how everything is so easy for us now. It's just given to us on a silver platter, at least in this Western culture. And in Canada we live in, it's pretty easy to just sit around, Netflix, whatever you want to do. There's no struggle. And I think it's hard for us to really, get in touch with ourselves, because there's no struggle. It's just easy. You just focus on other things.
That's not true.
Well, for a lot of people, I find
the heart aches.
They don't.
That's your call home.
Yeah.
That's your heart calling your attention to come back home to life. So when your heart aches, there's the thing. What we do is we distract ourselves, because nobody tells us that that's what that is. So we don't even know that that's what that is. Mm-hmm. Right? How do you know it? And the point is, sit with that. Like, we try to distract ourselves or blame it on somebody or ignore it or deny it. No, sit with it, feel it.
I feel like that's a real Western way to look at things too.
What is?
I have a discomfort or something, I'm going to not think about it. I'm going to distract myself with something else, like death, for example.
Yeah,
The Western culture doesn't talk about death a lot at times. It's really sort of a faux pas, whereas Eastern culture, completely different when it comes to death. And everyone goes through it. It's never going to stop. Death is the one thing that really is for sure in your life. But I don't know. I just feel like the Western culture doesn't talk about it. They don't bring it to light. They don't.
Well, let's change that.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because it's true. It's true. Some people are more comfortable with death. Death is a fact. Mm-hmm. There's nobody here who's 500 years old. That's a hint. Right?
It's true.
We've had 10 billion people on the planet, and all of them are dead except about 8 billion, right?
Yeah.
Right? So that's a fact, and it's a fact of life, and we see it everywhere in nature. There isn't a reason to hide it, right?
Right.
There's a reason why, as long as people are alive, you want to make their life a little easier when they're having hardship, right? When people get old and they can't get around, you give them a little help, right? And frankly, sitting with the heartache and sitting with people who are dying are both very, very good experiences to have. But coming back to us having it easy, excuse me, us having it easy, you only need one distraction to get distracted from this.
Yeah.
So it just requires a deliberate choice to sit with yourself, to spend time with yourself, to learn to get to know, and in the process learn to appreciate what you've been given for a time. Because the dust and the water, they've been around for like
600 million years?
Yeah.
600,
maybe 4 billion years,
Oh, sorry.
right? 4 billion years.
My history of the world is very bad, sorry.
Well, life started 4.5 billion years ago. And actually, so it's been around for like 10 billion years. Like 14 billion was the Big Bang, supposedly.
Didn't matter, yeah.
I wasn't there, but
We don't have any pictures, so it can't be verified.
We could be off by a few billion years,
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a very long time. Dust and water have existed for a very long time. So let's say it's 4 billion years. And when you're gone, the dust and the water will be dust and water for the next 4 billion years, right? You get 100 years in this combination to be a human being. If there's a purpose for life, it's the primary purpose has got to be to fully get present in and appreciate what it is to be a human being. By experience, not by theory, not by religion or philosophy or political
books.
persuasion. No, but to be present with yourself, do nothing, feel. You can see light in your darkness. You can hear sound in your silence. You can feel love in your emptiness. Right?
I like
To
that.
spend
I support
time,
that.
to spend time that, because that is the greatest gift you've been given. That is the gift. That is the gift. You won the lottery. 300 million sperms got wasted.
Anybody
It's got
else?
one chance in 300 million,
I'll take
and
that.
you got it.
Yeah.
You
Anybody
got
else
the
have
lottery.
plans of going home and meditating later today?
Yeah, everybody is chosen people, chosen by life.
Yeah.
And we create all kinds of little stupid ideas. We are the chosen. No, we are the chosen. Well, we're Italians are, and we Germans are, and we, it's all BS.
Yeah.
It's all BS. Every human being is here because life wanted him here. Every plant, every animal, every critter, every
Organism.
everything,
Yeah.
everything, all created in what a parade.
Yeah.
What an amazing.
What an amazing
that
time to
is.
be alive.
It's fascinating how
Yeah.
many things had to be put into the exact right place to
Yeah.
even have Earth exist as it does.
Even this,
Yeah.
this took
Yeah.
14 billion years to arrange. So don't take it lightly.
Yeah.
no
No,
kidding.
Oh,
No
snap.
kidding.
I think that
Make
connects
it-
with me.
make it count.
I think that connects with me really hard, though, is just that, in the last couple of years, I've just realized that good or bad experiences are the flavor of life. And if you're not willing to experience, as you say, the dark and the
Yeah.
light, you only experience the light, you're missing half of life then.
For sure.
And
And
if you don't-
not only that, but if you judge them, then you're going to be more likely to miss them, because don't judge them. They're just experiences.
Yeah.
Somebody said there's only success and learning.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing
the,
is...
the most important things that happen in my life have been what I consider the worst experiences. The war, the pesticide poisoning, my marriage breaking down, the things that really hit you,
Yeah.
because that's where most of the learning takes place that you apparently needed to learn, because if you had learned it before, that wouldn't have happened, right? So in that sense, some people recommend that you hope for misfortune so you can learn
I can see that.
how to be a real human being.
For sure.
I'm not saying you should do that. I don't wish the war on anybody.
No,
but
but-
here's the truth.
Yeah.
If people don't do it out of wisdom, they will get the war that will say, oh shit, we need peace around here. right?
There is merit in that, though. Not that you'd wish any hardship on anyone, but if you experience something traumatic in your life, or a war, for instance, you gain wisdom. You gain a wider perspective than most people have, which is, I'm not going to say unfair to people that haven't ever been through suffering or anything, but I feel people that have so much more perspective on the world and know it better than most people.
Forced. It doesn't make me any smarter, but I find it hard to joke about going around killing people and having wars.
Yeah.
And so in the 60s, when people would talk about, oh, we're going to start a riot, and I said, that's not funny, because, and they always thought I was a little square. So then they came back and they said, oh my God, we started a riot. And I said, well, you said you were going to go there. What the hell did you expect?
Yeah.
Or it was like Vietnam, and everybody wanted to go there initially, and then they experienced the trauma, and they came back saying, oh, it wasn't really a good idea to send like 18-year-olds to Vietnam.
Well, and PTSD is not a sign that war is an uplifting experience.
No, not at all.
No,
right? So they come back and they're completely messed up. Why? Because there's something natural to being high on life, and then out of that, caring for life, supporting life, empowering life, doing what you can to make it work for everybody. There's something built in like that. And when you go out deliberately to let's mow them down, let's kill them, let's really screw them up, there's just something not right about that, And then you have to have a very big reason, And the reason what was the reason for Vietnam? They were halfway around the world from us. They were not a threat to us.
It was just...
I forget why, but...
I'll tell you what it was.
Communism.
I'll tell you what it was, as we were fighting communism.
Oh,
And what is that? That's just like a head trip.
And we didn't need to they didn't need to get involved, really.
Right, yeah. They just said, let's install democracy
I know,
as
and we did
can.
that in Korea, and we did that in other places too, right? But it's just a head trip. Democracy is a head trip. Republican and Democrat is a head trip, right? Communism and democracy, they're head trips, right? But the truth is, we don't need those. I was thinking about that this morning. I don't know why that, but it's like, I watch all this TV, and they all have like formulas, right? What should happen, and here's that, and and what does that? And then we have the television, and all they teach us is that opinions matter, but they don't. What matters is whether you care for life. That's what matters.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? Well, you help an old lady across the street, or you see somebody who's bummed out, and you talk to them,
cheer them up,
or it's really small. It's really small stuff, or you help to dig the potatoes in fall, or you do whatever is needed for the simple needs we have. Our needs are not complicated. We need air, we need water, we need food, we need to go to the toilet, We don't even need to have sex, although it feels like we need to sometimes. Right?
Sometimes.
I think one of the big reasons why we are so excited to have you here is because not only are you well versed in health and nutrition, but you've also got this huge business where you've sold your products. How did you go from I have this idea and how can I, spread my message of, health and nutrition to the world? What was that like?
Yeah, well, when I realized that the damage done to oils by processing, this thing just hit me. It's like, we should be making oils with health in mind. There was a couple 4-letter words in front of that, right? And it was like, we could help so many people. And then omega-3s were established as essential, which means you can't make them, you got to have them, they got to come from outside. If you don't get enough, you die, eventually. And if you bring them back before you die, all the problems that come from not getting enough are reversed. That's what essential means. They're established as essential. 99% of the population doesn't get enough. Every cell needs them, and they're a nightmare to work with. And I said, we need to develop a method for making oils with health in mind, and we could help so many people. I got so excited.
How old were you when you thought of this?
38, 39, 40.
Right after the pesticide.
Yeah, that was after, because I learned that while studying. Yeah. And then there were contradictions, and it really bothered me. Omega-6s are essential, but they give you cancer and kill you, and said, how can that be? And then I dug out, and then I started looking at processing, and it was the processing that does the damage. So you make them with health in mind by protecting them from light, oxygen, and heat, and you don't chemically mess with them. So you're literally just squeezing the oil out in a protected way. And then you put the oil in the refrigerator, take care of oil. Nobody wants to put oil in the fridge. They do it with steak and ice cream, but for some reason, oils that are more sensitive than steak and ice cream, they don't think they should have to refrigerate them.
No, it's always
so this is like really sloppy thinking. And so we decided, we're going to do that. And I have no business background. My background is all science and bioscience and psych. I took a degree in nutrition later, like around the same time as we were working on that, because I thought it would be helpful to kind of get it. So no business background, but enthusiasm. And honestly, between the money and the enthusiasm, always choose the enthusiasm.
Yes. Yeah.
Always, because even you may not make a lot of money. Depends on what your idea is, and depends on the situation. So many things happen that were just the right timing at the right time, asking the right questions. I didn't create that. I just ended up in it, and that literally happened because I made effort. It's not that, but even making effort is a gift life gave to me. So for me to say, "Oh yeah, I did this and I made myself really rich," and I, it isn't like that. I didn't create the roads I travel on. I didn't make the airplanes I flew in. I didn't, just like even basic stuff.
Right.
Right. And I didn't create the world in the state that it was in regarding oils, because that was all done without my permission, so to speak, without my input. Right. And then I found, then I was broke for 15 years, but I felt it was worth doing, so I was going to do it. I moved in with my mother.
Wow.
At 38.
Honorable, yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, and she said, I told her what I wanted to do. She said, okay, you can get free room and board. So I said, okay. And then she had a stroke, and I was able to help her because I happened to be there. So it was like, if you look at it, it's all magic.
Yeah.
All of it. And then I got screwed by the first company that I worked with, and it was about money.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Normally is.
And then I did a couple of other things, and then I got a partner. And that's worked for 25 years, but we're now on the way out of that too. Because when people, this is my view of it, when people are discontent, they will always find a reason why you should give more to them and they should give less to you, because the idea is, if that happens, then I will feel better. I will be more content. And fundamentally, we had a contract that was, we agreed on building something together and then benefiting from it financially for the life of the product. This could be like 500 years, right? And so we did that, worked together. In my opinion, I pulled my weight. I went around, I was on the road 6 to 9 months for 15 years, living out of a suitcase, talking in 40 countries, talking to everybody who would listen. Loved doing it because I knew I could help people with their health, and there's just something that feels really good when you know that something even just an idea you have, or even just a little thing you do, that helps somebody.
No, that's high on
make
life.
Their life better.
Yeah.
High on
That's
life.
high on life. You're high on life.
Totally. Anything I can do to get higher on life, or to get anybody else higher on life. Because to me, I feel taken care of. So it's not about me anymore. So, and if I don't feel taken care of, I know where to go to feel taken care of, because it's in there, right? So now it doesn't have to be about me anymore. Now I can help. And now it's not, I'll help, but only if.
Right.
No, I'll help because help is needed. And there's some, and you know what? People trust that. When they see it, they trust it. So that's also good for business. But you can't say, well, let me be selfless so that I can get rich, because then you already screwed it up in your head.
Yeah, I'm going to be selfless so that I can gain in this.
Yeah,
way or another.
I'll be selfless so I can be selfish.
A lot of people do it as an act, I find, too, just to be selfless and then try and sell you something.
Yeah. Right. Oh, and there's definitely a whole range of people who are very big on money, and they tell you about the love of God and the love of Christ while they have their hand in your pocket. So that's that's like they were called the wolves in sheep's clothing.
That's right.
That's right.
And so you definitely got to be. But if you have something that is your gig, your game, your your gift from life that you can manifest because you have an affinity for it, then that's the place. That's the place where you need to live. And to some extent, you need to protect that. Because other people, when they see it, if they see it's a good thing, they will want to run with it, but it won't be what you have because it's not theirs, right? And that's happened to me where, like, my vision, I assumed other people would run with my vision, and they did, but it wasn't my vision that came out of it.
Yeah.
Right? And so I've learned that slowly, but I honestly, to take credit for that, and is there a formula here? Honestly, I think the formula is get enthusiastic. There's no formula for that. You have to find that within yourself, right? And it's based on your background, and it's based on your talents, and it's based on the situation in the world, and it's based on what you have an affinity for, maybe what you have background in, maybe what you have experiences in. Something in you is unique to you. You have a PhD on your life. You have a PhD on your life. Whatever it is you need, whatever you think the credentials need to be, you have that on you. Because nobody else can be like that. Nobody else can have that, right? So you come with your own gifts, and you come with your own power, and you come with your own talents. And what does it take to manifest them? You know what? Some of it's trial and error. Some of it is stubbornness. Some of it is setting standards and not budging from them, even though they're completely ridiculous. And some of it is, but it has to be something. It'll be something different. Because if you're just doing what everybody else is doing and accepts, then it's not going to be any different from what's being done. So it's nothing.
If you do the same as everybody else, you're going to expect the same results as everybody else.
Yeah.
What's that thing you said before, Parker? In Bali, you said don't expect... if you do 95% of what people do... Didn't you say this?
Yes,
Yeah, okay, here we go.
But it was also half a year ago. I don't really remember.
I know.
And it may no longer be true.
Yeah.
No. It's along the lines of if you do the same thing as 95% of the population, you will get the same results as 95%
of the population.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Boom.
I mean, if you keep doing what you're doing, you'll keep getting what you get.
And it's too easy, I think, these days with us being connected with everyone at any moment to want to be, someone else. And try to be something that you've seen and you think, oh, that would be a good suit for me, but you're not actually.
Yeah. Because the gig, I mean, it can be a reminder, but you don't get the gig from out there. You get the gig from within yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the idea of not spending any time with yourself is really stupid if you want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right? I'm an entrepreneur. I don't spend any time with yourself. Well, then you're just copying everybody else.
Yeah.
Right.
How can you, it's like contradictory.
Yeah.
You want to be an entrepreneur, you need to be present in your own life.
I think one thing that's really helped with my whole study in life in the last year is just really trying to find my own purpose and looking within. And I've realized, as you said, like my own gifts. I know myself, but I didn't know myself as well as I should.
Yeah.
But really being in touch and looking inwards and finding what makes me tick, what makes me happy, what do I have to give the world that could help. And that is what now gets me up in the morning and makes me more happy to get up and even have conversations like this. And I think, wow, I wasn't doing that before. I wasn't doing it as much. I can't imagine how many people don't even have the thought or the drive to have that conversation.
Well, a lot of people go and do personal growth stuff, right? And there's a lot of it around. I've done quite a bit of it, so I can talk about it from my perspective. And fundamentally, most of them are cookie cutters to learn to do the same thing that everybody else is doing, and it's boring. It's boring because there's no... you are the juice in your business, and if you're just copying somebody else, how is that a self-expression, right?
Yeah.
So and then sometimes they promise you, you'll be as successful as I am, and I'll give you my Rolodex, and I'll do all that, and you pay them a bunch of money. They all are really good at selling you, and almost none of them deliver.
Yeah, it's true. As this whole desire of helping yourself and being self-aware people are being aware of that, that's when money gets involved, and people now try and market that and try and sell you stuff.
Yep.
Which is, again, money getting in the way. Wow. Money, evil.
Yeah. Well, it's not evil. See, it's not the money. It's the
desire
It's
money.
the people behind it. The intent of the people behind it. And often now they're always talking about how they're supporting charities and, I want to make a lot of money so I can help a lot of people. And then what it actually comes out to is they make a lot of money and they find some charity to support. So a little orphanage in Nicaragua, right? And then they make it sound like this incredible thing, and they use it to make even more money because there's something in people. They're using good work as an advertising tool, and they're less interested, it seems like, in doing the work.
I've seen a lot of that. Yeah.
And but they have a private plane, and they have this and that, and they have huge houses, and it's like
they make a big masterpiece about it, a big show of it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
They use it as marketing material.
Yeah. And you know what? When I had no money, I could still help old ladies across the street.
That's right.
So if you're high on life and you want to get everybody high on life, start now.
Yeah.
It's not the bank that does it. It's not the monies that does it. It's your being high on life. And that will also lead to other things.
Well, I'll tell you.
So there is definitely a part of it that you cannot. What's in you that makes you alive is smarter than Einstein, way smarter than any of the formulas that anybody's put out. And when you talk to people who really have accomplished something, you find out they'll write books about it and they'll tell you what the formula is. But you know what? None of their formulas work for you because you're not them, and your project is different, and the time you live in is different, and the surroundings and your personality, they're all different. So it has to be there's some place where you can learn a method to practice meditation, right? But you know what? The method doesn't get you there. The method can help you a little bit, but it's actually you wanting to be fully present and getting a heart-on for it is what will get you there, right? So you can have teachers, and they're beautiful, and it's nice. They're the contact high, and they're exhibit A for something that's possible, but they're not crawling inside of you and letting you be them, right? You have to crawl inside yourself. That's an alone journey. Mm-hmm. But it's not lonely. It's an incredible adventure for a magnificent discovery.
So
I interrupted you.
Yeah.
Oh, no. You had a question. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, for our audience, for even ourselves, where can you start? How do you start getting connected with yourself? Because it's such a long journey. Where would you recommend to?
But it's
to
not
enter?
long.
Well, I mean, it can be infinite though. It can be a journey. You said you never can get to the bottom of it yourself, right?
Yeah, but we're just talking about getting started.
Yeah. So okay, exactly. Well, how do you get started then?
Sit with your heartache. Sit with your heartache. You can go. I mean, if you're interested, you'll find stuff on the internet. There's one that I like that's called timelesstoday.com. And it's somebody that just listen to stuff.
Yeah.
And see what rings true for you. But somewhere along the line, you have to sit with yourself. So you can't go out to go in.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you ever have...
Again, Google gets you everything except yourself.
Right. Do you ever use music to achieve a certain state or to help you focus or anything like that?
I haven't done it a lot. I know the music that does it. I play it sometimes, but I don't do it a lot. Okay. Because even that becomes a distraction.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? We had a guy one time, I took a course in one of my courses. It was a guy who said he had a machine where you could, if you bought his machine, he didn't say it quite like that. If you bought his machine, then in 1 or 2 years, you could attain the state of being that monks spent 30 to 40 years meditating, attaining.
That's a must-have.
No, absolutely must-have, yeah. Now, I had already started doing my practice. So I noticed a couple of things. One is he was not exhibit A for the kind of energy you feel from a monk who's been meditating for 30 to 40 years. And that was really, it was shockingly obvious.
Yeah.
And then we got to do a sample. So we put the headsets on, and they have some music in it. And so I sat with it, and I was trying to do my practice, and I found it distracting because you have
somebody
music
else's
out.
formula.
Yeah,
but
you're having
unique.
Yeah. So you have the music out here, but you're trying to go here, and there's no music here, right? So that if you're agitated in your mind, music will calm you down to some extent, but it won't get you here.
Music for me does have a way of making me feel a different way. I connect with music when I feel it, depending on what I'm listening to, how it sounds, even maybe what the lyrics represent to me can put me in a different state, or can put me in a place where I am more peaceful or relaxed or focused.
Yeah.
So
and there are musicians who use their musicianship as their meditation. And athletes sometimes will get themselves into meditative states through their athletics. That's now already coming from the inside out. But I think you get to a certain level with the music, but to go deeper, you have to leave the music behind. Okay. I found I was deeper than this music. It was actually distracting me.
Yeah. Well, maybe there's a start for you, or for the viewers watching. One way you could get started maybe was music, or something that could put you in a
Would you
place.
recommend noise-canceling headphones, just so there's nothing, you're not going to hear construction birds chirping, you just are in tune?
Yeah.
For those of us who live downtown Vancouver, silence is not always easy.
I have noise-canceling headphones. I use them when I'm flying.
Yeah.
I find them much more restful. If I fly to Australia or like long flights, I end up much more rested.
That's our advice as well.
Yeah. And so I find that interesting. Again, they're helpful, but again, you're making yourself dependent on something on the outside. There has to come a time where you go there because you want to go there, and you don't need the world to shut down so that you can, right?
Right. Isn't the point of like all this is like you can be anywhere in any kind of state, or anything could be happening around you, and in maybe just a few seconds you could just go into yourself.
Yeah.
You want to get to that
because
level,
you're already there.
Yeah.
It's just your awareness is wandering.
Right.
Right. The whole thing is about awareness. Right. If my awareness is out here and my contentment is here, I'm not gonna feel the contentment out there. I have to bring the awareness to where the contentment is. Before I started doing my practice of sitting with myself, I used to go to the woods, used to go out in nature. Whenever I got fried, I'd go out in nature. Because nature has a pace, and it's not as mindy, and the trees don't tell you crazy stuff,
Yeah.
And it's not everything going like this all the time, So there's a certain rhythm that is, and our body comes out of those kind of rhythms. So it's fairly nice, right? But then they say, okay, but then, I live in Vancouver. Now I'm fried in Vancouver, and I have a job to do, or I have something to do. I can't go to the woods to get cool. Mm-hmm. So the idea, the power of doing a practice is that you can be anywhere and get to that place. Same thing when you're sick. How incredible. We focus on the sickness, but do you know there is something in you that never gets sick? Wow. Now, wouldn't that be nice to be able to go there when you're sick? Mm-hmm. There'd be like some hope there at least, right? And so when you talk about human nature, there's a place in you, I call it perfect health. Your life is perfect health, because life never gets warts. Life never gets cancer. Life never has a heart attack, because life is energy. It's beyond that. So I call that perfect health. No matter what's going on, never gets sick. And behind that is awareness. And that awareness is beyond health, because it's beyond life and death, right? And that awareness is also formless. It's like people say, well, be aware of the awareness that is aware of whatever you're aware of, right? Like we got the microphones and some people here, right? What is aware of those? Something in me is aware of that. And what is that thing So become aware of that thing that's behind all that. And there's where your God lives. You know, or whatever you call that.
Yikes.
Right?
Yeah.
Experiential, right?
Yeah, you're just blowing up the level of some thoughts here. Just really, this is some incredible thought. We don't usually, go this deep on all the podcasts.
That's for sure, because we don't get a chance to, because we do have to run like a so-called business. Yeah. And we are on the go very often, if not every day, every hour. A lot of us are working beyond like a 9 to 5.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you're entrepreneurs, that goes with the territory.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Parker, I did want to ask you, you said before this podcast started, you got super hyped up because you've used his products before.
Yeah. Well, just I guess it all started with fitness more than anything, taking supplements and vitamins for, a combination of fitness and for health and fitness. I'll put that under the same category for now. But going to any of these stores, places that sell, for anything from
Udo's oil,
protein powders to supplements, vitamins, and oils, I learned of Udo's oil. Yeah. And it was actually one of the number one, I would recommend this product to you if you want overall health. And I wasn't very familiar with oils. I take the odd fish oil here and there, but okay, you know what? Different. This stuff is, obviously, it's big enough. He's got a huge section of Udo's oil in his fridge there, and he's recommending it to me. I've spoken with this guy for a little while. He seems very knowledgeable. I'll give it a whirl, and I tried it, and no problem for me to consume something because, he said some people may not like it because it's got a nutty flavor to it or a little bit of a nuttiness. Doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I can just take a swig of oil and that's fine. So I ended up using it for, call it 2 months, I guess, until the bottle was done, and didn't realize that product that I had that was good for me, that I was putting into my body, is your product. And so I actually just found that out very recently and was very excited to sit with you.
What was it? What was the product that you ended up getting?
Udo's oil.
It's called
Omega-3,
it's just like
6s and 9s?
Yeah, it's a essential fatty acid product that came out of making oils with health in mind, right? That we talked about before.
Right.
And we did a couple of studies with athletes, and if they took a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day, that's about 25% of calories of this blend. It's omega-3s and omega-6s that are essential. More omega-3s because they're missing in most people's diets, or too low in most people's diets. Within a month, the athletes, and then they'd put them in food and mix and spread it out over the course of the day. Within a month, they had 40 to 60% increase in their performance in their sport to exhaustion.
As well as reduction of injury? Is that part of it as well?
Not reduction of injury, but healing in a third to a half the time.
Okay.
And recovery in a third to a half the time.
Okay, cool.
And the injuries would heal quicker. But, when you injure yourself, you injure yourself.
Yeah, that's a physical.
And they had, their knees were better. That's one of the big issues. Like the joints are the toughest. That's what gets wrecked the quickest, right? Because there's always torque on them, and you torque them wrong, and then they get messed up. So they had less pain.
Quicker recovery time.
Better mobility. There were a couple other things, but better mobility, less pain in their joints. We had people who were football players. One of them called me one time. He said, "Do you put a drug in your oil?" And I said, "Why do you say that?" He said, "Well, I noticed that every time I take it, the pain that I have from football injury in my shoulder goes away, and then every time I go off it, the pain comes back." So he thought we had it. I said, no, omega-3s are the drug. But really it's not a drug. It's an essential nutrient, right? And it was like very profound stuff. I mean, way better than I thought it was going to turn out. I knew that they're essential and that they're important and that it would be good to bring them back and there'd be benefits. I had no idea of the wide range of benefits that would. And literally, the research now says omega-3s, if they're not damaged and not toxic, will improve virtually every major degenerative condition of our time.
Incredible.
It's like, ooh.
Yeah. Now, for these athletes, not only physical, was there like mental alertness, sharpness improvements?
Boxers said their reflexes were sharper.
Yeah.
Lots of feedback on better mental performance, increase IQ. There's studies on that omega-3s will increase IQ by 3 to 9 points if you use the right amount and use them the right way. Better learning, better memory. When in my 50s, I had some deadlines. I worked one day, all day, through the entire next night, all the next day until like after supper to get this project done. I couldn't do that in my 30s. And I was focused. I was able to focus like that. You know, usually they say, you know, you can't hold anybody's focus for 20 minutes. I was focused for like almost 2 days.
Yeah.
I was tired. At that point, I was tired.
Now,
but I couldn't do that. I mean, and the oil, I think, made a big difference in that regard. The skin is the other big.
Udo's oil that I had was the first time I had learned or been told that it needs to be refrigerated.
Yeah.
Is that the case for most oils? Like right now at home, I have coconut oil, avocado oil. It's all in the cupboard. It's all room temperature.
No, if your oils are rich in omega-3s, they need to be refrigerated. The omega-6 oils should be refrigerated too, but they're so damaged that it doesn't really matter that much. Okay. Avocado is has a little bit of omega-3 and a little bit of omega-6, but it's quite low in them, so it's a little more durable. And coconut oil is mostly saturated fats, and you could keep it on your stove.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask
as long as you didn't boil it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you actually, just to make it like for everyone's everyday use, if I could talk to you about some common practices we use with oils that we have in our cupboards from the grocery store.
Yeah. And
just tell us if these practices are bad for us, essentially. Because obviously, so a lot of people will use canola oil, you know, some sunflower oil, avocado oil, olive oil to be cooking. It's not a good idea to be raising these temperatures to the smoke point or even close to that, or?
You know, it's very simple. Fried oils, fry health.
Okay.
Period.
That's simple.
Fried foods, fry health. Period.
Oh, no.
You have a frying pan at home. Everybody does.
Yeah.
Take it out, turn it upside down, hit yourself on the head with it really hard, so it's associated with pain, and then throw it out.
Yes.
And go back to cooking in water and adding good oils to the food after the food comes off the fire. So you can put Udo's oil or oils like that. You can put it in hot soup and on steamed vegetables and all of that. But you do it after the cooking is done.
And you recommend doing it to help with the digestion instead of just taking a straight spoonful?
Yeah, oils were always in food.
Yeah.
You've already taken it out of the seed or nut that it came in, right? And the other way to get those is to eat the seeds and nuts.
And that goes for food as well, as you don't recommend just torching them in a frying pan, even without oil or not.
Torching foods?
Yeah.
Yes, we recommend that you eat all the torched foods you can get.
Yeah.
No, you know what? When you torch foods, what are you doing? You're burning
them,
right?
You're changing the chemistry.
Since when is burned part of the human?
Everyone loves that.
You know what I thought was weird?
No, but that's not true.
Yeah.
You know, people say, "Oh yeah, I love the taste of burnt steak and stuff." No, you don't. If you scrape that shit off and get a tablespoon of it, and you put it in your mouth, it squeaks between your teeth. It's bitter, it's acrid, it's scratchy, and it tastes disgusting. But we have it's like, I'll give you an example. When I came to Vancouver, I came out of the desert, and it rained a lot in winter. And I would get depressed. And I told one of my friends who had been here longer than me, and he said, no. He says, look at the rain. It's really bright. So I did. I looked at the rain. It's really bright. That's the last time I was depressed. I don't know where I came up with the assumption that when it rains, you should be depressed. But I was telling myself that and depressing myself. And you're doing that with the burnt food. Somebody told you, oh yeah, burnt food. Maybe it's mother love. Maybe your mother cooked like that, or maybe it's somebody
advertising.
It's the keg commercials.
Probably. Okay, but and you bought something, and you never tested it, and so you eat this stuff. Oh, that's so good, and you're actually bullshitting out of a short circuit in your brain because you're not paying attention what's actually going on.
Yeah,
both in your body and in your tongue.
I think it's just the texture, maybe that difference of having a little bit of extra crispiness to it. Like I always thought it was crazy when people would let their marshmallows catch fire burn the outside of it, blow it off, and eat it.
Yeah.
And my parents are like, don't do that. You're burning it. Now that is like cancerous food you're putting inside of you. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Sugar already not great for you, but
exactly.
you've made it worse.
Exactly.
But doesn't it taste so good?
Does not.
Not really, no.
I mean, but do it. Like, scrape the stuff off the steak and just do it once. And just like, wow, what was I saying? What was I thinking?
To protect my cooking show. I never actually burn things, but a proper sear, where you get the caramelization of the fats and the sugars in there.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not scraping that part off, but like in my mind, that's how I was taught to make steaks. I've never changed the method that I've done it. So you're right. I've just been going down.
See, what
my
we
path.
used to do when I was a kid, we used to cut the steak in cubes and throw it in the stew.
Yeah.
And it was boiled with the rest of the vegetable. It tasted amazing.
Yeah.
Tasted amazing.
Stewed meat's delicious as well.
I worked with a vegan chef, and when she found out about the oil, she and I had a long interview, like 6 hours. She changed all her recipes, so there was nothing fried in her book. She said, the only thing I can't do when I cook everything in water is I can't get the burnt taste, but everything else is just as good and probably taste even better, because a lot of times the burn in food masks natural flavors that are subtle, and it's just get overpowered by something, right? But when you really work with the flavors, you can do a lot more when you don't burn it.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different way of thinking about flavors and cooking. But it's basically about the flavors.
And when you're saying
it's
cooking,
a feast for your tongue.
Cooking in water, is that like just boiled water, stuff in it? Is that soups? Is that steaming?
All of it.
All of the above.
All of it. It's the reason why water is because water will never heat above 100 degrees Celsius.
Right.
And
Then
you
it's
don't
no longer
burn
water.
and you don't burn food unless it dries to the bottom of your thing, and then you can burn it.
Yeah, it's true.
But as long
That's
as
not
something
water
is
anymore.
like even the steak, when the steak is burnt, right? The steak is burned. You've noticed the burn starts on the outside, not the inside.
That's right.
On the inside, it may still be red and raw, right? Why is that? Because as long as something is wet, it will not go higher than 100 degrees. So in order to burn something, you have to drive the water out of it.
Right.
And that's always on the outside. Same when you make bread. The inside of the bread is steamed. The outside of the bread dries out, the water evaporates, and then it burns. Because it goes to 300 and whatever it is, 350 degrees Celsius or 200 degrees Celsius, right? And,
Sure.
And everything on the inside only goes to 100.
I'm going to be breaking out the slow cooker tonight, boys.
Okay, so
The what?
The slow cooker.
Slow cooker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause it-
You know what? It's from a health perspective.
Yeah.
It's
You're
cool.
not burning anything, really. It does take it above 100 degrees Celsius, but you're keeping all the water
Well,
in there mostly.
the frying starts at 160, and then it goes up. The damage goes up exponentially with the increase in temperature. 160, which is 320 Fahrenheit.
That's good. I think we're going to change some of the way I cook after this conversation.
Well, play with it and give me feedback, okay?
100%.
Because I'll work with you. It'll be fun.
And I think it's a great challenge and adventure to go on. I'm always challenging the way that I cook. I've actually always wanted to try some of that submersive cooking.
Yeah, and then the other thing that is really useful in cooking, if you want to get really good at it, spices.
Our spice
Spices,
game.
spices is heaven.
Yep.
I love spices.
In cooking, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So, and when you do that, then you have subtlety in the food, but you have immense flavors.
Yeah.
And burning actually masks that.
Yeah. No, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I don't know why sometimes that I always feel that I have to just crank up my cast iron pot or whatever I'm using to full temperature. Then when I had that sound, that's when I'm doing cooking. But it's not. It's just.
Well, you know what? Make
see
a
the
recording
commercial.
of that and then just listen to that.
Once I get into my state, yeah, that's
Or
great.
maybe Udo, you could develop an oil that gives that burnt taste back to the food. That doesn't
burnt
hurt
taste
us, but
Yeah.
I don't know if there's enough demand for that burnt
No.
taste. In
What are you
food.
talking about?
Sure,
People-
some people, but
What really blows my mind, and I don't think many people think this, like the whole saying, we are what we eat, or as you're saying, like we put our body through such stress and such agony throughout the day, or if you're playing sports, maybe even when you're coming out of the war, we don't pay homage to this life that we have. Mm-hmm. I don't really treat it that well. I try to. I mean, I force myself to exercise sometimes and try and eat healthy, but like really, not much of the time I'm really giving myself what I need. And I think a lot of people could say the same. I'm not going to speak for all of you, but how important that this should be taught in schools. This should be taught in childhood. This should be taught.
Well, this is a school right now.
Yeah.
You're my students, or we are co-students together.
Yeah.
Matching our wisdom.
Yeah.
And as many as people hear it will be affected.
And that's the point.
True.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's what this is. This is an amplifier for a message. Is it a message? Is it a good message? I think it's a
I think so.
I just think it's
pretty good message.
so important that it needs to be even wider spread. Than
We
this.
can't continue to live the way we've been living.
Yeah.
The environment is catching up, relations kept catching up, politics catching up, health catching up. So something needs to change. What needs to change? Every part of those 8 parts of that I talk about in the book on Total Sexy Health. Each one of those parts, we need to get back in line with its nature and its function. And when we do that, when we live aligned like that, and that's a different life from what we're used to, because we've been sloppy for the last 300,000 years. Mainly because we've been trying to survive and conquer our environment and make it safe, and all of that is cool. But we got it pretty safe in a lot of places now. Well, at least in those places, let's make it high on life.
Let's
Right?
do it. Yeah. Let's bring back life into people's lives.
Yeah, because we could all. We live crisis to crisis in North America. It's like we have no right to do that. We have so much.
We do.
And we have the opportunity, and we have the possibility of living lit up from within, because the light's already there, in harmony, because when I feel taken care of, I don't want to steal your shit. So when we stop stealing each other's shit, we can live in harmony. And when we live in harmony, it's not very difficult to make sure that everybody's basic needs are met on a sustainable, long-term basis. That's really the goal, right? But you can't do that if you can't get high on life.
Yeah, beautifully said.
Right.
Yeah. We're going to put that on our website now.
Oh, please do. Please do. I think it's the best. Honestly, this is the best title the best show name
Yeah.
of any show I've ever done in
Almost
almost 40
Thank you so much.
almost 40 years.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Everyone has a different connection with it, but I think we connect with the way that you're explaining it as well. So hard. It's not about, some people, as you said, take it as partying or whatnot. No, it's about really, the word life. It's so powerful.
Yeah, imagine, take all the life off the planet. What would it look like?
Absolutely. The moon.
Yeah.
It's a nice, easy answer.
Yeah, the moon with skeletons.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's awful.
Exactly.
So Udo, where can people who are interested in your works and your writings, where can they find them?
UdoErasmus.com is where I'm building the platform for the big picture.
Okay.
And the other one, Udo's Choice, that's where my products are. Udo'sChoice.com.
We can buy it. We can buy these products straight off of there.
No, but you can look at them, because this is an introduction. You
The
can look at
information's
what they
there.
are and what's there, and then you get them in the natural foods trade and on Amazon.
Okay.
All of that. And the book on Total Sexy Health, you can get that off UdoErasmus.com.
Fantastic.
Okay.
And also, Udo's Choice online is your Instagram and I believe Facebook handle.
Yeah,
as well?
I have a Udo Erasmus on Facebook, and I have Udo's Choice on Facebook. My daughter runs that, so like it.
Yeah,
Please like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, she won't like me. So I need help here.
Yeah.
No problem.
Before we go, do you have one last message to us and maybe the world?
One message to the world.
I feel like there have been a lot of good
There's been a
messages
lot.
so far.
Yeah.
Anything else that you'd like
Sure,
to put out
yeah.
there?
Get high on life.
Yeah. We didn't pay him for that, but we should.
Yeah. The bill's in the mail.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're so stoked that you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
thank you.
looking forward to talking to you more after this.
Yeah, this has been very inspiring. Very cool.
Yeah.
And to everyone at home, thanks for joining us today. You can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere
the
else you
one.
can find good podcasts. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We put out videos every week, a podcast every week as well. And we'll catch you later.
We're going to get these conclusions down one day. I know it.
Yeah. Stay high on life, everybody, and stay healthy.
Yeah.